Hi, everyone. My name is Shadisha Bennett Brody, and I'm a licensed mental health counselor here at Flagler College. Today, we're going to be talking about setting healthy boundaries. Therapists talk about boundaries quite a lot, but what do we mean by that? I think this quote explains quite well. Daring to set boundaries is about having the courage to love ourselves, even when we risk disappointing others. In a nutshell, our boundaries communicate to others how we would like to be treated. We don't use boundaries to manipulate or punish others. We can set boundaries and still not get what we want, but having healthy boundaries increases our chances of being heard instead of misunderstood. Healthy boundaries means reduce stress and anxiety in relationships. Now, most people think boundaries are about saying no, but a person with healthy boundaries is also comfortable opening themselves up to intimacy in close relationships. There are several types of boundaries. Physical boundaries relate to personal space and physical touch. Healthy boundaries include an awareness of what's appropriate in various settings and types of relationships. This can be violated if someone touches you when you don't want them to, or if they invade your personal space. Emotional boundaries are about our feelings. Healthy emotional boundaries include limitations on when to share and when not to share personal information. Sexual boundaries refer to emotional, intellectual, and physical aspects of sexuality. Healthy boundaries involve mutual understanding and respect of limitation and desires between sexual partners. This can be violated with unwanted sexual touch, pressure to engage in sexual acts, or sexual comments. Our time boundaries are about how a person uses their time. To have healthy time boundaries, a person must set aside enough time for various facets of their lives, such as work, relationship, or hobbies. This can be violated when another person demands too much of your time. Intellectual boundaries refer to our thoughts and ideas. When healthy, we include respect for other people's ideas and an awareness of what's appropriate discussion to have. This can be violated when someone dismisses or belittles another person's thoughts or ideas. And material boundaries are about money and possession. Healthy boundaries around that means setting limits on what you'll share and with whom. So, for example, it might be appropriate to lend a car to a family member, but probably not to somebody that you met this morning. This could be violated when somebody steals or damages another person's possessions or pressures them into lending their possessions. It can be helpful to understand specific boundary styles: rigid, porous, and healthy. Rigid is a person who always keeps others at a distance, emotionally or physically or otherwise, and they definitely have trouble asking for help. Porous boundaries is when somebody gets too involved with others and overshare, and they can be dependent on other people's approval. While healthy boundaries, you value your own opinions, you can say no, but you can also respect other people's boundaries. Obviously, we want to strive for healthy boundaries, but most people have a mix of different boundary types. Somebody could have healthy boundaries at work, porous boundaries in romantic relationships, and a mix of all three types with their families. So here's some steps that can help you to establish healthy boundaries. You definitely want to clearly identify your boundary. Our boundaries come from our values, so the better that you know yourself and understand your values, the easier it will be for you to communicate them to others. You also want to be as straightforward as possible. This can be tough if you don't like conflict, but don't make people try to read your mind. Just tell them. It can be really tempting to apologize or over-explain when you're setting a boundary, but this just weakens your message. Also, being polite costs nothing, but being calm helps to put the other person at ease. And as far as starting with tighter boundaries and then loosening them up as needed, I talk to my students about this one a lot when it comes to roommates. If we start with loose boundaries and try to tighten them up later, people will push back because you've let them continue the behavior for a while. If, for example, your roommate is gaming until 3 a.m. and you have 8 a.m. classes, you might not want to wait until finals to have a discussion about it. Don't make it personal seems kind of odd because our boundaries and values are personal. What this really means is that there's no need to see the other person as an enemy. You don't have to hate someone to set a boundary. Sometimes we need support when we are setting boundaries, especially if we're not comfortable with them yet. And trust your intuition. If you notice that you're feeling resentful, for example, it probably means that you need to check in with yourself about why that is. You may need to address a boundary with someone. Thank you, everyone. That's all I have today on setting healthy boundaries. And I'll leave you with this quote. Walls keep everyone out. Boundaries teach people where the door is.